welcome to this next exit interview. We have our lovely second place finisher, Mr. Erik Barnes. How are you?
What's up? I'm good. How are you guys? Jealous of your background.
It's not virtual, yeah. No.
Touches air.
Literally looks fake.
And as always, we have Lilly with us asking the questions.
Yeah, so welcome, Erik, to second place finish land. It's a great place to be where you
that's right.
Everything you say in Final Tribal, which I'm sure we'll get into. But as you said at Final Tribal, this was your first time playing. So what are your overall thoughts, feelings? Are you going to play again?
I would love to. No, I came into this like so excited because I'm just absolutely obsessed with Survivor. So I thought it was going to be awesome. And it was literally like 10 times better than I could have expected. Like the thrill and like being in an actual Survivor game was just so exciting. And then watching it back was just hilarious and so much fun. So yeah, all around, like it was a blast.
Good.
Yeah. And like, we have to mention this, but your boyfriend, Brett, he won our last season. You were kind of around the area, but like, did you get any sort of like inside information on how like stuff was going, some strategy, anything for us?
I'm laughing because Brett is not the best at explaining things, so he doesn't give context at all. So first of all, this popped up and he only likes Survivor because I like Survivor, so he has to. And he's invited to play in this game and I'm like so jealous. I was like angry. I was like, I want to do this so bad. Why are you doing it? I'm the Survivor fan. And he's like, I'm doing it. I was asked. So he did it. And afterwards I'm asking him all these questions and he just like could not answer. I'm like, how do you find an idol? Like, what are the challenges like? Literally all that I came away from my conversations with Brett was that there was a wall sit challenge that he'd well in. So that, I mean, I guess that helped me that I knew that there was a wall sit. But aside from that, I'm like,
he had a little wine that day. So like, well,
a little,
because
just a bottle.
Yeah, it's not that you and Brett played completely different games, but I feel like you did play a little bit differently to where totally different seasons, different people, right? You have to maneuver
totally different games. Like that, like Iriki Island and our season is just, they're so crazy different. The cast, how the game went, everything.
Because you didn't even get to see Iriki play out at all. You got, I think, the first episode before you got to play. So you didn't even get to see like how Brett played at all. So it was like very fresh of you only had our first two minis to even watch. And then again, we evolve within every season and grow. And it's almost sort of comparable to be like, okay, this is how the structure is of like challenge, scramble room, you get pulled, it could be at a very awful time, and then you go to tribal and vote.
Right.
So like, that's kind of what you can gain from watching our other seasons. But as like your season, you found the only advantage in the game.
True. And I have to say, I didn't watch any of the prior seasons and I regretted it. I think maybe I had seen an episode of Brett's, but one thing that I was not thinking about whatsoever was like entertainment value, confessionals, any of it. I was just like fully in the game, enjoying the game, but also like wanting to do well. And I was like, I need to get the hell out of these confessionals as fast as possible. So like, that's one thing now that I've played, if I ever did play again, that I could give more thought to that, like dictating my strategy rather than just being like, guys, I need to go. Those conversations happening.
Yeah. So with your confessionals, you did give like good chunks of information. So while they might not have been the like Robbie, like, whoa guys, look at what's happening, they were like, they gave it a good chunk of information. So there was still like good stuff within your confessionals. So like, don't fret too much.
Well, and it does depend, like, are you getting pulled right after the challenge and you have no context for what's going on? Or are you pulled right before where you're like, it could be Kylie, it could be Danny, it could be, you know what I mean? Where you have options to then talk about, which, you know, it's completely different from a long game for sure. Yeah. Well, to get into your game a little bit, we'll talk pre-merge for a hot second, because I think there was one vote that really reshaped your game, and that was the Landon vote. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, let's talk
Keep
through
that
that.
Landon vote.
Yeah, I think you dodged.
What were you getting from Old Maziwa? What were you
Yeah.
getting from Michael and Landon? Like, how was this working out? Because we see
Right.
Dennie might wanting to work with you and Landon and pull in John and have the 4 boys do something. Because that vote was a hot mess.
It was.
Oh yeah, it was.
So from your side of things, deep dive this.
Yes. So as background, Landon and I, we were stuck in the puzzle room for 45 minutes or however long it took us to finish that.
About that.
We were stuck together when Sherry forced us to make the decision for the next challenge where we had to sign everything out. So we were already like, all right, we're definitely under the spotlight, like in the hot seat right now. Everybody is thinking about how we're a duo. So coming into this swap tribe, obviously we wanted to make the same decision, and I had no idea it was a swap. But Landon, his first instinct is to say something like, he's like, Erik, we should use you as a decoy vote, and then we can pretend that Michael and I are at odds. And I'm like, no, we're not using my name as a decoy vote. Like, so I was already like in panic mode that he was suggesting that I was going to be the decoy vote. I think like the way that I wanted to play it was like, Landon is the only person that I know is a tight bond from my original tribe. So I'm going to try to get a favorable outcome. So I was talking to Dennie and Kylie, and I liked both of them. I felt like they were people that I could work with. And I was trying to get the 2 of them to agree to work with me and Landon, and we could each sacrifice one of our own. Mm-hmm. That's the angle that I took.
Just who bites first is the thing. Who gets rid of their own first and gives up the
right.
power.
Right. Yep. And John, so it's funny, John said in his exit interview, we were like 2 ships passing in the night. For whatever reason, like I did not believe a word that came out of John's mouth. Like anything he said, I was just like, no, he's lying. Can't trust him. I can't trust him. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. And I think he just was so likable and just had such a big personality and was so good at talking that I was threatened by him. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't feel like he was somebody that I was compatible with, like in a Survivor game standpoint. Mm-hmm. So that's why I identified Kylie and Dennie right away. I think thankfully Dennie and Kylie both felt the same way about me. Like they both seemed to like me. Dennie wanted to have a final 2 with me. Kylie was obviously, we became like soulmates in the game, like a little later. So I'm glad that it worked out that way. And the funniest thing watching back is that Kylie at first actually was saying, we need to get rid of Erik. I think he might be more threatening. And John swatted that away.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about because, you know, you and John had tensions and then you and Kylie bonded. And she's just like, yeah, Erik, he's got to go.
It's so funny to think like Kylie and I are like, oh, we have John to thank for our friendship. Like, because if she got her way when she was going for me, then it wouldn't have happened. So.
Who knows if they would have won that next challenge, because clearly Landon did not have any materials. So like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Know. I mean, granted, you didn't need materials for that specific challenge, but like moving forward, you don't know when a merge is going to happen or if another swap's going to happen. And then if you have Landon who has 0 materials, like, granted, they didn't know that because Alanis was on the other tribe, but like.
Right. Yeah, I had no idea.
If you had gotten pulled like Michael kind of was to be like, okay, we want to work with you. Like, are you willing to flip? And who would you have been willing to flip on either Landon or Michael in that swap tribe scenario?
Yes. So I think I probably would have been willing to flip on Michael because obviously Landon and I, we were like together the whole time. So I was like, I know I have him if I have either of them. Mm-hmm. I did not want to lead with that. And I think when I spoke with John, he right away was like, all right, which one from your side? And I was like, I don't want to give him a name yet. Like, I don't want to, like, what's the word? I don't want to cave so early and let him think that I'm willing to just roll over. But then he was very frustrated that I wouldn't give a name. So I think it's also because the person I wanted out from their side was him. So
how about give you a name and it's yours. Like, do you want that? Like, would you rather be cagey and coy, or would you rather give me yours?
Right.
At that vote out, did you regret not volunteering for the quest that was offered by the host and swapping to the other tribe?
I don't think so. I think there was no way in hell I was gonna volunteer for the quest. I was like, I just made the decisions at the last challenge. I took forever on the word puzzle. I was like, I need less spotlight. I need less attention on me.
Yeah.
Like, there was no way I was going to volunteer for that.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's a good call. So you get to the merge, and there's this awkward thing that happens at every merge where original tribes get together and you're trying to suss out if you are voting together or is this just a facade. What are you thinking at the merge? Do you have somebody you want to go after, or is it just let's get through it?
So I was going to play it by ear and figure it out when I got there. I was just happy that I made it to merge, because when Landon left, I was like, all right, writing's on the wall. Michael didn't tell me that he was voting Landon. He was in on it and I wasn't. Yeah. So I was like, so happy that I was able to do that challenge where Dennie was blindfolded, and just, I was like, I'm doing this puzzle. I need to win this puzzle. I'm going to do it. Kylie ended up volunteering me, but I was going to volunteer anyways. So I was just happy that I got there. And what they don't show is the winter scramble rooms, where I think this was the vote that Maddie was rocked out. And that took a while, I guess, because they went to rocks, that it takes more time. But me, Kylie, and Danny, and John, and Michael, obviously, we were all in the winter scramble room for so long. And that's the moment where Kylie and I became like soulmates. We were nerding out about Survivor. We had the same opinions about everything. Like, that's when we became best friends. And those winter scrambles were the best time for me to like sit back, relax, and like analyze, all right, what's going on? Who are the people I could see myself working with? And I don't need to be worried right now that somebody could be talking about me in another room. I'm like, I can chill here and kind of socialize in a strategic way to make sure I knew which people I wanted to work with going forward. And that's when I really, really bonded with Kylie, which is just, it's funny to hear people say that they underestimated that relationship, when I thought it was clear as day. We were just like hitting it off so hard.
It might have, like, because I saw you as a pair, but I felt watching it that the old Maziwa of Kylie, Danny, and John were still the tightest / Kylie, Danny as the pair within that three, and then you were going along with them. So it like where it felt like an unbalanced connection, where you were like, I'm with you, Kylie, and Kylie's like, well, I'm also with these other people. So like they could have seen that connection from like your side of things, but whether it's reciprocated on Kylie's side maybe was the issue.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. And I know I didn't answer your question at all about merge. that was just to give the context behind it, like getting to merge and where I was at. I was totally open to working with my old tribe. The crazy thing about that merge vote was that I guess it was John's comment saying that Sean's name came from me. Yep. To Victoria.
Screwed everything up for himself and you going back with Damu.
It was crazy because like Victoria's at first just like, I don't believe that. And I mean, Victoria and I we bonded in our original tribe. We both liked each other. We got along. I loved having conversations with her. But that, I think, it really caused a huge ripple effect, because no matter how hard I tried, my original tribe would not give me a name. Until watching back, like, didn't know that they had said Alanis, because the second that I got to talk to them and it was time to come up with a name, they refused to talk to me. They were like, well, you flipped anyways. You're flipping on us anyway, so we don't need to give you a name. And they were so sassy and like opposed to work with me that I was just like, what? Where is this coming from? But at the same time, like, this game is so fast. I don't have time to sit here and like beg them to still work with me. Their minds are clearly made up that they're not going to work with me. And I had also known like Michael is most likely going to flip anyways. So I gave them a chance. I know, right? I was like, Michael already flipped. So, but I was just so confused. Michael's the one who voted Landon out, not me.
Yeah.
So how am I like the flipper? But watching back, I was finally like,
John.
that makes sense. It was what Jon said.
You knew not to trust him before the merge.
Yes, right? My spidey senses were correct.
Yeah.
So
That's
funny.
funny. And I think like something that you mentioned that we've talked about in previous exit interviews, I think specifically Victoria's, is there is this weird time throughout the game where you're not playing in a challenge. You're not really scrambling for a tribal. So a lot of people will get up and leave their computers. We've seen it in the episodes. And you're someone we never really see just away from their screen. We never see, your nice background. It's always you in front of it. And I think that really is how you got to where you are, because you were making those connections, being that personable person. I don't know what other word to use there, that you are, you know what I mean? That you made connections with people that were pulling people like Kylie, like, Danny, even Jon. I think Jon likes you and Jon wants to work with you, even when you know not to trust him. So
Jon was like, Erik's a loudmouth.
Oh, we'll get to that. I have comments about that.
Oh, okay.
That was so funny. That was so funny to me.
I think the Robbie vote was very straightforward for you, but let's talk the Jordyn vote, because you can't go for Victoria or Alanis because they have immunity. So from like Kylie, Danny, Jon perspective, Jordyn's the only option here, but you have this tight, or did have this tight bond with Jordyn, where like, how do you play that? Do you just, I've now really connected with Kylie, or how did you come about your decision for the Jordyn vote?
Well, so looking at the numbers, like in general, after original Dama was not going, like very clearly not going to work with me, I didn't see a way forward where I could work with them, but I still was always keeping every option open. And every time I had the brief chance to talk with Jordyn, like I would get pulled or she would get pulled, but I was still making it clear, like, Jordyn, we're tight, like we vibe, I would totally work with you. It's just so funny watching it back, like the juxtaposition of me saying, like, I love Jordyn, I would totally work with her. And then her in confessionals, like, I can't trust Erik. I don't know why, there's some reason. And like telling other people, oh, I can't work with Erik. I can't work with Erik. And meanwhile, I'm in the other room saying, I love Jordyn so much.
Yeah.
So I think it was the Jordyn. Yes, it was a Jordyn round that I volunteered to be her partner for.
Yeah, you were like, Jordyn, I love you.
Right away, I was like, Jordyn, what other way to show somebody that you would be totally willing to work with them than to risk your game by going into an immunity challenge and like being their partner?
People did think that was a little suspicious too. Like, I think it was Danny or Jon, one of the two, were like, Erik picked Jordyn. I don't know if it was, but it was in a confessional that I remember seeing, and they were a little funny. Like, that's weird, because I think you guys were like the first ones to be a pair. So like you immediately saying like outright Jordyn was very telling of like, I still like her and she's not in our 5.
Right. Like, so there was no way for me to show Jordyn other than telling her that I would be willing to work with her. But this was like, when I heard that we could pick a partner right away, I was like, I'm picking her. Like, this is like a game move that this is the last way I could show her I'm open to working with her.
Yeah.
But obviously when Jordyn's name came up, and I later find out it's because Kylie knew how much I loved Jordyn and she felt threatened by it.
I mean, from Kylie's point of view, that's extremely smart to get rid of Jordyn, because like that's 100%. The only other like heart pull that you have. Yep. So get rid of her now before it comes down to a choice between the two of them.
Yep, 100%. And at this point, I was definitely closer with Kylie. We had been together for at least an hour at that point and had tons of conversations, talking strategy, talking Survivor, talking anything. Like, at that point, I was definitely already closer with Kylie. So when I came into the room and the name was on Jordyn, I was just more like, oh, that sucks. But like, there's nothing I'm going to stick my neck out for in this situation. Like, there was no way that I was going to be able to change that outcome. Right. And I mean, every vote except for the Landon vote, I evaluated and I saw the outcome as something that was going to get my game further. So like at the end of the day, I was okay with the Jordyn vote because I saw my pathway forward without her.
But Jordyn also gave you a big cover in Jon has the idol, Jon has the advantage, Jon has this. So
Right.
what were your thoughts throughout the entire game of when everyone was like, there's no advantage being played? Did anyone find it? Did Landon get voted out with it? Who has it? Jon has it. Like, how did you like play that off during the game?
So I didn't bring it up myself. I may have brought it up at some point just to throw the send off. But the funny thing is, I figured the puzzle out. I sent it to you and I sent it to Lauren or somebody else. And I didn't see a message from you, but I ended up getting a message from Lauren saying like, oh, nothing here or something. So I just used that story as if that was a real one, because until I was pulled into the room by you and you told me that I had the advantage, I had no idea. I was like, oh, I guess someone got it first. Like, I know that this is the correct answer and I know I figured it out, but somebody must have gotten to it first because she said nothing's here. So, and thankfully a lot of people had already brought up like, oh, I figured it out. This is what it was. And I tried, but they said nothing here. And
there were a lot of people submitting at the same time. So but she might not have checked the chat or something when I said like, oh, Erik got it. So like there might have been like just a slight miscommunication with that, because I think Danny submitted it, multiple responses. Like a bunch of people were submitting responses at the same.
Yeah, Jordyn submitted it too, I think.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider playing the advantage just to play it, even to play it on somebody else to get them?
Well, he couldn't play it on somebody else. It had to be.
Right. Okay. Well, did you ever
consider final six? So
ever consider playing it just like for the flash of it to add to your game?
I did. So to play it just for the flash, no. I was never considering playing it for the flash. I, as you can see, watching it back, was hyper focused on lowering my threat level like however I could. I think I said that like 3 times throughout. I'm like, wow, I was really obsessed with lowering my threat level. And I just didn't want people thinking about me as a threat. I didn't want people thinking that I was dictating any votes. I just didn't want anyone looking at me or any eyebrows being raised when it comes to Erik. So I totally would have used it if I thought I was in danger. But when it came to that round that I was able to use it, I think that's probably skipping ahead. If you want to talk about votes in between, we can.
We can bounce around. We'll bounce back.
Okay.
Continue talking advantage.
Yeah.
Right now.
So that round, it was the challenge where we were all being pulled into different rooms, and it was the memory challenge. Mm-hmm. And I think you can see, like, I was doing so much strategy talk during those rooms. Anybody I was with, I was like, all right, I need to fill Alanis in on everything and find out everything that she knows. I need to know who she's targeting. And I'm like, all right, we're talking about nonsense. I need to know where Kylie and Danny's heads are at. I need to know where Michael's heads are at. And so I kept this mental list of like who everybody was targeting and like who was at the top of their list and who was at the second to top of their list.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Because we were at 6 and you know this is the vote.
Exactly. So that round, I just made for damn sure that nobody was thinking about me. Like I didn't get a sense from anywhere that somebody had ever even mentioned my name. So I was pretty confident that I wasn't going to need to use it. And I thought like playing something just for the flashy move, I don't know, to me, if we had gone into that vote and I just played disadvantage and I didn't even get votes, then it looks almost like you're misplaying an idol, or like it's very transparent that that's somebody just playing something to be flashy.
Yeah.
And then just on the other hand, everybody was so fixated on this and talking about it constantly. And I really did think that like if I had played that, people would start targeting me after that, no matter what. I just wanted to not have anyone looking at me for any reason. Yeah. So there was a very low chance that I was going to play it unless I truly thought I was in danger. And I knew where everybody was at that point. So that's why I didn't play it.
I think it's a good move. And I think you talked about how you were constantly worried about your threat level. But I think something to that is that you kept it down, and you can see that through episodes. We see Kylie's name come up, we see all of these people that are seen as threats considered and then voted out for most of them, except for Kylie. We see Danny, we see Jon. So I think that did play into it. And I think you're exactly right. If you had played your advantage without needing it, you would have been the next easy vote for sure.
Right.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't see your name on a parchment.
Never.
So,
no, I didn't get voted once.
There you go. Like, that is a big accomplishment in especially a mini of like, and in a game with Michael, like throwing random.
Right. Well, I think Michael and I were tight enough. We both felt that the other one would benefit our own game. So, and we just connected on like a personal level too. But we knew the other one could benefit our game and wouldn't go against us, I guess. He was very important to my game.
Yes. And I love how, we talked with Danny and how everybody looked at him as the big threat in like endurance challenges and everything like that. And you were a big proponent in that, but the 2 challenges you won were endurance challenges.
Yeah.
Mister.
Yep. No, I know. That's why I was like, it's kind of crazy. I know everybody when they're playing this game has spotlight syndrome. They think that they're the main character and like it's the narrative is there.
Character, come on.
Yes, they're the main dynamic character of that season and everything's from their perspective. But I was like, it's kind of crazy that I just won a long ass like endurance strength based competition and my name still has not been mentioned. Like one of the easiest ways to talk about who you want to vote out next is who won the last challenge. Like, so that made me a little worried after I won that challenge, that somebody was going to look at me. I had technically won the word puzzle in the beginning, despite it taking a very long time. I was the one who figured it out. I had won that challenge when Danny was blindfolded. I figured out the puzzle and like smoked the other tribe.
Like it wasn't even close, smoked.
Right. And what was the other one? I mean, even the one that Danny had won when we were getting pulled into different rooms, I'm pretty sure I was second place in that one, but they didn't see that because we were all on our own rooms. But
you were second place, 100%.
But yeah, that's why like it's funny like watching my game back that I really was fixated on lowering my threat level to the point where like whenever I wanted to target someone or wanted to move forward with getting people's minds on another name, I was never just outright saying, except for the Danny vote and the Jon vote, I was never outright saying we need to go for this person. I want to vote this person out. It was always like what's a good example? And the Robbie vote, I knew I wanted him to go, but I'm like, I think people really like him, and he did win a challenge already. He came second in the last one. I really like him. He's a nice guy, but like, I'm not trying to put a target on him. But watching him back, I'm like, that's so ridiculous and transparent. But nobody ever saw it as me telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And they would just agree. And then so many votes were going the exact way that I wanted them to. So I didn't have to like step forward and shout out what I actually wanted.
Yeah.
So
I think go ahead.
Kelly.
I was just going to say, I think something you're also really good at is you mention these people that you see as threats like 2 votes before you think it's actually vital for them to go. Like, I think, you start talking about Danny while you're voting out Victoria. You start talking about Michael while you're voting out Daniel. So that way it's like, you just like you said in your final tribal, they think it's their idea because you've been telling them for the past hour that, I like him, but like, he's smart, or I like him, but he's good at endurances. And you know that nobody is saying that at the moment. So I think that's also
right.
a huge
Definitely planting seeds like left and right. Like even just saying like Jon is so likable. Like Jon would be so good at actual Survivor. He's so good at talking. Like he's so fun. Like saying these things and getting in people's ears. So they're like, wait, yeah, he is really likable. He is a good talker. I think it did a lot of seed planting, and I think a lot of it worked. So
so we get to that Jon vote out, and a great moment which kind of affected the rest of Danny's game was Jon forcing Dennie to tell you, so we're thinking Kylie, and not Jon being the one to say that. Did you already have Jon's name out there before that, or was...
Yes.
Okay. So
100%.
you just had never gotten to connect with Dennie after or before like that moment.
So I had Jon, like Lilly just said, I'd had Jon's name out there for like 2 votes.
Yeah.
Like, and I think everybody knew that if they wanted me to get on board with voting on Jon, I was ready.
Yeah.
I had voted for him. Like when Landon went home, I voted for Jon. And I really think he and I, everybody thought that like we really were working together, but I don't really see it that way. I don't think he did either.
Yeah.
He was just one of those like loose ends that was out there that I was always thinking about. Like I knew that I voted for him, and I knew that he really didn't feel totally on board with me.
Yeah.
But that room with Dennie and Jon, that changed the whole rest of the game. Like you see, like I get pulled into that room and they're both like so excited. They're like, all right, we have to tell him. And Jon's like, Dennie, tell him what's up. But the key thing here is that Dennie never came to me after that to clarify that he was just putting on a face for Jon. Like he never once told me after that room that he wasn't serious about going for Kylie. So even though he ended up not voting for Kylie, he had still said in that room, we're going for Kylie, and it came out of his mouth. So I took that and ran with it. Even after I realized that he hadn't voted Kylie, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to use this to my advantage because he was somebody I knew I couldn't go to the end with.
Yeah, and I think even Jon mentioned it in his exit interview where we see a clip, maybe in the episode he goes out or an episode before, where it's you, Kylie, Dennie, and Alanis in a room. And you're kind of like, this is a good group. We all kind of like each other. Like, let's do this. Were you ever afraid that Kylie, Dennie, and Jon were doing that without you there or with a different fourth person?
I don't know. I don't think I ever felt scared after 1 or 2 votes into the merge that Kylie would ever go with Jon over me. And same with Dennie. I mean, Dennie came to me with the final 2 and I was like, this is amazing. Like this, like going into this game in my interview or in my application, like Dennie was like the exact person that I described that I wanted to work with. Like somebody who everyone likes, is great at challenges, is super nice and like honest and whatever. And I could hide behind them. So when he asked me for a final 2, I felt like I'd struck gold. I was like, this is perfect. Like, but no, I just, Kylie and I spent so much time in the same rooms talking, like we were on the same exact wavelength. I don't think I ever worried that she was going to go with someone like Jon or Alanis over me. I knew she was close with Dennie, and I knew that that was going to be an uphill battle, like when it came to getting Dennie out, but not when it came to Jon.
Yeah.
And since we're on the Jon boat, I just thought it was so funny. The episode where Jon leaves starts with him saying, I know what the move is. I need to get Erik in a room for just 6 seconds. That's the move. If I get Erik for 6 seconds, we're solid. And I'm like, first of all, he should have been able to read that I was closer with Kylie than him. So that's a risky move. But second of all, he then suddenly has a change of tune in his confessional and says, oh, I think Erik has a big mouth. I think Erik has a big mouth. But the ironic thing is that every single person that he told went to Kylie immediately and told her that he was coming for her.
And you didn't say a word.
I didn't go straight to Kylie. I mean, I would have, but I was under the impression that Dennie and Jon were both going after Kylie. So if you go back and watch this episode, I'm sitting in the room just like, God, when is Dennie going to leave? I can't say anything yet. Like, Dennie's still in the room. I can't tell Kylie yet. And the second he finally leaves, I tell Kylie, they're both coming for you. They're both after you. We need to vote Jon. Like, it's not a question. But yeah, I just thought that was funny. Like, in the beginning, Jon thinks, like, the key to this round is just talking to Erik for 6 seconds. But then it's like, I think Erik has a big mouth. Other people want to involve him, but I don't want to. I'm like, when did this confessional happen? Like, in the timeline.
I think that was one of the first ones, and then the Erik has a big mouth is one of the last ones in his group of like couple questions that he got.
Okay, gotcha. I just thought that was so funny.
Well, because I think Dennie was like, let's get Erik to, in like when they were just trying to talk to each other about like the fake Kylie vote, I think Danny was like, let's get Erik on board. But Jon is just like, Danny's telling me this, but Erik's a loudmouth.
Yeah, but his first thing that he said was that he needed to get me in a room. So I was like, that's funny.
Yeah,
and everybody
was trying to get you in.
Yeah.
Victoria went straight to Kylie, like, which is just so funny to me.
Kylie has just a way. I don't understand it, but she has magic powers. And
she had a stronghold on this game, on everybody in it the entire time. Like, such a dominant game. Like, by far the most impressive game, in my opinion.
I'm gonna indirectly quote Jerry in Heroes versus Villains of like, if you could just bottle that up and sell it, man, you'll make a lot of money.
Corporate America would live off of that energy.
Yeah, right. 100%.
Yeah, you mentioned Victoria. Let's quickly talk about the Victoria vote, because that's the final 6. You don't have time to scramble. Everyone's sitting in the room. People are saying weird, like,
you're the only one who's lost here. Victoria knows it, and everybody else knows it. And you're just like, where am I supposed to vote?
Wait, you mean at the tribal council?
Yes.
Yeah, because like Victoria, like they're all just like, okay. So about that plan we talked about last time, and you're like, what's the plan that was last time? And Victoria's like,
no, so I
didn't hear about this.
I knew exactly that they were referring to Victoria. So the comment that I made in the tribal was like, you're talking about the person who you mentioned would take up a seat at the end. And so when I was doing that scramble to make sure where everybody's heads are at, the common theme, I don't know why, was Victoria needs to go, because I liked Victoria and I would have been willing to continue working with her. But that was the most common theme from everybody I'd spoken with. She was the highest average on everybody's target list. So if you see in the beginning of the episode, that exact phrase of, oh, she would take up a seat at the end, was when I said that in tribal, which was the first thing that I said, was like, guys, are we going for somebody who would take up a seat at the end that we just talked about? Then I was like, oh, Victoria. Like, that's who they're talking about. As long as it's not me and I don't need to play this advantage, then I'm good. I'll vote that way.
So if you could, if say Victoria is either the one that wins or you're just like, I don't want Victoria going here. What other person would you have tried to knock out at that 6?
And how would you have said their name?
This was, so I mean, I was already on Danny. So I wanted Danny out. I didn't know if that round was the move to make the move, but we didn't have a scramble room anyways.
Yeah.
But let me think. So Victoria was definitely
Victoria wins immunity here, and it's you, Danny, Alanis, Kylie, Michael.
Yes.
I think the most common names that were Victoria again. I'm saying like the highest average because I got everybody's at target lists, and like 1, 2, 3, Victoria was the highest average by far of what other people wanted. So honestly, I think I could have made the move against Danny then. I had all the ammo that I wanted. I knew everything that I wanted to say to get him out. But I think the second most common name that had come up would be Michael.
He's been a lot of decoy votes as well.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, the purpose of that round was just getting through and keeping that advantage so that if I'd gotten to the end, that I could just kind of drop that bomb at tribal council and hopefully impress people.
Yeah.
So I was more focused on like, I'm not going to dictate this round. I just want to get through this round however I need to.
Yeah. I think you do it well too. So Victoria goes, I think we've touched on the Danny vote.
Yep.
You want him gone. It was Alanis had already kind of done like this soft throw to Kylie, and you go in with like,
Danny's going, you have no
even though you guys have talked, and it kind of just seems like it happens very easily, which is great for your game. Did you think that he would have been a vote for you at the end if you had gotten there, or do you think that bridge was burned as soon as he got voted out since you had a final 2?
So in the moment, I truly thought that there was no way that I could get all the way to final tribal council if he was still there.
Okay.
That's how I was looking at it. So I saw Dennie as like, either he will respect the move and say game, respect game, or he'll be like, wow, what a dickhead. He promised me final 2 multiple times, and he just told me 3 times in different rooms that we were together, and he just cut me. So I thought it could go either way. I also knew how close he was with Kylie. So honestly, I was most the thing that blindsided me most of anything was just Danny's vote and John's vote at the final tribal council. I totally thought Kylie had it in the bag, but I know we can get to final tribal later.
Yeah.
But no, that Danny move I think was the biggest move, the most important move for me. And I've been working on Danny since the second that he came for Kylie. Like, I had already started planting those seeds with everyone. And in this round in particular, so obviously I knew that Danny had not voted for Kylie. I was still telling people that Danny had voted for Kylie. At first, I actually didn't know. Like, I still thought he had voted for Kylie. But then I just kept going with it. I'm like, anything I can keep saying and focusing on when it comes to Danny that will tank his game, I'm going to do it. Anything I can say to make him be somebody that people want to go. And I think you can hear Kylie saying at that tribal or at some point that I was telling Kylie that Danny was still saying Kylie's name. I was telling Alanis that Danny was still saying Kylie's name, even though he wasn't, because I was like, whatever I have to do to get this guy on, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so it works. We go now to the wall sit,
Which
and
you
you crush it.
Yeah.
I don't think you were even like, I think you could have gone for a few more minutes there. You look so rock solid the entire time.
Yeah, I impressed myself. I did not think I could do that long of a wall sit, but honestly, it sounds like cheesy and ridiculous, but I think what it comes down to is how much I love Survivor and how much I love this game, how badly I wanted to win. Another reason that I'm like, when I look at endurance challenges, I'm like, this is pure willpower. Everybody's in pain. It's just who wants it the most. So winning an endurance challenge is like really scary. Going into this game, I was like, I'm not going to win an endurance challenge, like unless it's the last one, because that would be dumb, because it just shows how far somebody's willing to go to win.
Yeah.
So I think it was just, it was what time at that point too? It was so late.
Oh
like,
God,
we were
let's
exhausted.
keep going.
We were exhausted. I'm standing in my office / guest bedroom at 2 a.m. doing a 5-minute wall. So what is my life?
I don't think it was quite 2, but
not 2. No, not 2. I think it was like midnight.
Yeah, it was midnight.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you crushed it, and you crushed Brett's time. So like you hold that over him and be like, I did a longer wall sit than you.
Right.
That was definitely yeah. We see it. The vote is kind of between Alanis and Michael to get out at Final Four. We see you.
I think it was Kylie and Michael.
Oh yeah, Kylie. But we see it in both you and Kylie's confessional, rationalizing to the audience and to themselves to bring each other. So it kind of feels like you guys both think you can beat each other at the end. Why did you decide to go with Michael at the end?
So Michael was somebody who, even though we were together every single vote, every single tribe, he was still like very mysterious to me. I knew that there was stuff that he was doing that I just didn't know about, because he was one of the more quieter players. Yeah. And I was like, there's probably stuff that he's done that's really awesome that he could pull out of his pocket at Final Tribal that I don't even know about. Yeah. And that scares me.
Like all the flip votes.
Yes, like all those random flip votes that are hilarious and awesome. The other piece to it was like, I didn't know exactly what the jury was going to value, but Michael had also been a bit of a challenge. The challenges that he won, like he won a 5-part challenge where you had to win like 5 different things, and he won all of it. Like he smoked us in that other trivia memory challenge, and
which is about application, like our applications, which is kind of like if you either can infer or like if you've heard people talk about things. Like I did the little flashback moment of like Maziwa talking about it in their breakout room of the applications, like things that you remember about people, like, oh, I love Todd. Todd's a great winner. Like it also kind of shows the jury like maybe he was paying attention personally more than maybe the rest of you were.
Right.
That was also a threat too.
So yeah, I think the answer is just that he was the biggest mystery, and I was the most scared of what he could pull out at Final Tribal. I was also just comparing like just baseline resumes of like how many challenges did Alanis win, or Kylie, or me, like who has the advantage there. I also was thinking like I have the legacy advantage that I can pull out of my pocket and impress them hopefully with that. I think I severely underestimated and just I did not see Alanis's game. I was never really working with her until the last 4 rounds or 3 rounds. So you see me saying it throughout the whole season, like, I just don't know Alanis. I don't know anything about her. But the way that I had viewed it was like, Alanis was somebody who lost her closest ally and had to figure it out and then got in tight with Kylie. I was like, I was somebody who lost my closest ally. I had to figure it out. And then I got in tight with Kylie and Dennie. And I'm like, okay, so that was something she overcame, but I also overcame that. And I won these 2 endurance challenges. And I have this advantage. Like, hopefully I can have the edge. So it was the same thing with Kylie.
A little bit, because we're going to talk to Alanis about this too. Your conversation with her that you kind of like swerve around being like, so I think I can beat you. You're guaranteed this spot. Who do you think we should take with us, Michael or Kylie? How, like, because you caught yourself in like the middle of that sentence. Like I could see it where you were like, oh, I don't want to tell her I think I can beat her. I just want to pivot here. So what was it like being in that breakout room? Because it's pretty much the first time with Alanis, like in total of the game where you're alone together.
Right, except for that random round where Victoria and Michael just left. They went to the bathroom or something. So I was like, oh, Alanis, we get one-on-one time. But no, I think I didn't want to spend time explaining why I was going to bring Alanis with me. I was more just like, I wanted to hear her thoughts and her insight on how she's viewing things. Yeah. And what did I say? I think I just said like, oh, well, I just don't know your game that well. Like, I didn't know you that well. So that's why. And there was a point where I was thinking like, would it be stupid for me to bring Kylie? Like she has steered so many votes. She's had like a chokehold on this game and dictated so much stuff. She has a great social game. She has like relationships with all these people. And so, and when I spoke with Michael and he was pitching Kylie, he gave really good points. Yeah. And that also made me more scared of Michael because he was giving me such good points. And I'm like, oh, I guess I should have brought him at the end.
Yeah, but that's the catch-22 of he made very good points about Kylie and why Kylie could beat you or something. But then also he was speaking so well of like how Kylie could beat you. So it's like a which one to take.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, there was no question in my mind. People have asked me like different iterations and if this person had won or whatever. If I had a choice of who I was bringing to the end, I was going to bring Alanis no matter what. Like in that moment, I can't tell you that I would have done anything different.
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense for you.
Yeah. So, Final Tribal. I just have like a couple general questions, your feelings. The first one I have, because as someone who got second place, I hinge my second place all on my Final Tribal. I know it's different for everybody else. Do you feel like that you have any what ifs or any regrets about your Final Tribal that might have cost you some votes?
No. So I came out of the season like right after filming, like thinking like, wow, I must have really messed up at Final Tribal. I must have not done a good job. And I was like kicking myself. I'm like, I should have prepared better. I should have brought up better points. But watching it back, I'm so proud of my Final Tribal. Like, I think I did the best that I possibly could have. I don't think that there was any possible thing I could have said differently or anything else that I could have brought up that would have changed any of the jury's minds. So it's funny. Like, I don't hinge it on my Final Tribal performance at all. Because I think watching back that I did a pretty good job.
I think this is one of our best final tribals of like to date of like it didn't feel like boring, where it's like sometimes final tribals people are just harping on the same thing over and over. Like you each got to be like, listen to me, like this is, you want answers, here they are.
Right. Yeah.
How do you feel about Robbie? Robbie is really the only one that comes out hitting hard, and it's really only directed at you and Kylie, but it's really directed at you, right?
Yeah.
Because you come in and you say like, I'm sorry, you know, if I hurt anybody's feelings, I'm here to answer any questions. And he's like, well, yeah, you should be sorry. And kind of comes in a little harsh, and you nor Kylie kind of react. What were you thinking when he's kind of going on his rant about what he thinks of the three of y'all's games?
I was just thinking like, all right, this guy clearly wants Alanis to win, whatever. I'm not going to get his vote. I was not fazed by it. And also you see me, I think I was laughing because I'm like, this is just ridiculous. And also his jab at me was starting my final tribal by saying sorry is on character. And I'm like, what does on character mean? Like,
also, it's not a bad thing, right? It's bad to apologize if you hurt somebody.
Well, I think like you were just apologizing if I hurt your feelings. You're not apologizing for your game moves. It's just like,
no.
Sorry if like my actions in the game hurt your feelings, but like these were the moves that I had to do to get here. And that I feel is okay. If you're like, I'm sorry that I made this move on you when I did, like, no, own that shit. And
yeah. This was all like I'm sure some of you are bitter because I lied to you or I blindsided you. I'm sorry if I hurt anyone's feelings. Like, I don't ever want to genuinely make someone upset, hurt their feelings. And I didn't even think about saying that. It just came out of my mouth. And I think it's from watching so many seasons of Survivor and even like seasons of other shows like Big Brother, where people have lost because they refuse to express, I'm a human, I have emotions, and I genuinely care about you, and I am sorry if you were hurt. And I guess that's why it came out of my mouth right away. But I was like, the fact that the only thing he could come at me for was that saying sorry was on character. I was like, whatever. I don't think that he's changing anyone's mind about me. I'm not offended. I was like, the comment to Kylie was just absurd because Kylie had told me about many conversations that she had had with Robbie. She was telling me facts about Robbie's life. And then he's like, you didn't even talk to me for more than a sentence. I'm like, that's just bullshit. But I'm not going to say that because Kylie's my opponent. But I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys responded the most appropriate way, which is just to smile and keep moving. Because you don't want to validate what he's saying. And there's no point, like you said, in being like, hey, like, you know
where Robbie is voting, you have to try and change the other jurors.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it was a good move. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, I commend any person who makes it to Final Tribal in a mini because you have no time to prepare for it. You have just been playing for like 11, 12 hours. Your mind is fried, and you now have to try and convince X amount of people to put your name on this parchment paper. So like, where in a long game or the real game of Survivor, you have that time. You're always kind of thinking about Final Tribal, where in a mini, you're just like, I have to think of this vote, then the next vote. Like, you're just kind of going semi vote by vote.
Yeah.
Such chaos. Yeah. No, I hate public speaking. I hate talking in front of people. I hate talking about myself. So like, even something like this gives me anxiety. So watching it back, honestly, I was just like, I'm so proud. Like, who is that? Like, I did such a good job. Like, I was so calm and collected at the moment. I brought up great points. I was like so proud of myself.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. And my last question about Final Tribal, you receive a vote and it's from Michael. Are you surprised by this?
And did you know it was Michael at the time of reading the votes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I assumed it was Michael when the votes were read. I was surprised by the outcome. Like, I can't lie. I was very surprised by the outcome. I went into this Final Tribal thinking, all right, Kylie and I are going to split votes, but I want to get more votes than Kylie. That's how I viewed it. And obviously my viewpoint was completely wrong. I did get more votes than Kylie. So, but I just saw Kylie as like, she was by far the best player of the game. I was just hoping that I could bring up points that make me sound better in that exact moment so that they might vote for me, even though she had played such a strong game. I thought that for sure she was going to get a vote. That was the most surprising thing to me by far, was that she didn't get a vote.
I think, and we've talked about this with Kylie, I think her game is so good if you're with her and watching it. Mm-hmm. If you're not with her and watching it, like you don't see it, because I like semi saw it in the game, but like you really need to have that perspective with Kylie's game where it's like, holy shit, she's been making moves. So. Mm-hmm.
I saw every move. I saw every single move that Kylie made. I saw every single thought process that she had strategically. And so I knew from not start to finish, but from swap to finish, what she had done, what she had thought. So I felt that was another thing that gave me comfort going to the end with her, was like, at least I know what she's going to talk about. And in my head, I have extra things that I can pull out of my bag to try and put my name over the goal line instead of hers. But yeah, I think Jon at the final tribal council, like him coming in with his question for me was like, Erik, my friend Erik, like you haven't owned anything in this game. I was just like, whoa, buddy, like where is this coming from? But I think that's the part where I say, when I'm proud, like I owned that question.
Yeah.
He went into it thinking like, oh, this guy's useless. He hasn't owned anything. Like I'm going to own his ass. And then when I finished listing like 3 major things that I did, dropping the bomb about my advantage, everyone's faces are like, holy shit, he had that the whole time. Whoa. He's just like, oh, amazing. Like, okay. Like that was a good answer. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think you did amazing in Final Tribal. And I think getting a vote is huge in Final Tribal. A lot of people can't do that, let alone get to it. So I think you played a great game.
100%. I loved watching you play.
Yeah, a game a lot of people envy and want to play themselves. I just have one question for the end, if we have Facebook questions.
We do have some Facebook questions for you, Erik. Alanis asks, Erik, wish we got to work together sooner. My question for you, do you regret not playing your legacy advantage? Clearly you don't, but did you think playing it raised your threat level and ultimately caused you to be voted out next? Great game. So we've kind of touched on this, but say you do play it. We'll kind of twist your question a little bit. Say you do play it. Do you then try and like push for that next immunity win so you can't get voted out? Or do you think maybe your relationship to Kylie will still solidify you even if you do play it?
I think in the moment I wasn't going to play no matter what, as we've spoken about. But I think that looking back, even if I had played it, I think I had enough strong relationships that I really didn't need to be as worried as I was about using it and the target that I would get. I know Michael wanted to go pretty far with me. Danny and I had a final 2. Kylie and I had a final 2. Like, looking back, I think I wouldn't necessarily have needed the next immunity, but who knows? I just thought that the value that the advantage could bring to my game was a lot greater, like dropping the bomb at Final Tribal, than it was playing it in a moment when I didn't even need to play it.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, Alanis' dad, asked, question for Erik. Again, great game. Did you genuinely think Danny was gunning for Kylie, or did you just use that to get him voted out? So I guess we did hear Victoria and Michael own up to the votes, but it still felt like you were just still convinced that Danny did go for Kylie.
Right. I think it's twofold. So at first I totally did still think that Danny went for Kylie because the name came from his mouth. Like, he was the one who had said we're going for Kylie, and then he had never told me afterwards that he wasn't serious. So I did think that he was after Kylie until I learned that he didn't vote for her, which people needed to tell me twice because I was so hyper-focused on Danny went for Kylie, I'm going to use this to get him out. And then eventually I did learn that Dennie hadn't gone for Kylie, but I was just going to go with that narrative anyways because I wanted to get Dennie out. He was the biggest threat that I saw to me getting to the end.
Mhm.
Now we have a question from Sean. It's a big one. I have questions. Erik, how many waves of 10 second graders do you think you could beat up before being overwhelmed? Assume every 5 rounds, so every 50 second graders, there is a 5th grader boss.
Oh my God.
You're just gonna get attacked by 10 second graders every round.
No, it sounds like I'm beating them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many rounds do you think you could before they like get you?
I think I'm overwhelmed by the idea of being with 10 second graders alone as it is. And the idea of like physically beating up a child is also very overwhelming to me. I don't think that I would get past 1 round. And the boss that he's referring to also sounds very scary. I think
1 round, you're done. The second graders just
I wouldn't even get to the first boss.
All right. So we've talked about her a lot this exit interview, despite it not being her own. Kylie said, Erik, it's no secret that you were one of my favorite people in this whole entire world, and my love for you is absolutely transcends this game. I may not have won or gotten any votes. I am the biggest winner of all for finding you through this experience. Selfishly, my favorite part of your game was the loyalty you showed me. You had my back, and for so long, it showed that you can play a loyal game and make it to the end, while still making so many badass moves along the way. I think the game you played as 3D chess, while the rest of us were playing checkers. Kylie, I kind of hate you for this analogy, because, all right. LOL. Every move you made, you had in mind 3 to 4 votes prior, and you planted necessary seeds to execute. Insanely impressive, and something neither I nor Alanis can honestly say we did. With that being said, outside of the Dennie vote that you dictated, what was your most impactful move that paid dividends to you in the way you made it to the end? Congrats on an absolutely incredible game. All of my love.
I love Kylie so much.
What was the one move aside from the Dennie vote that, like, it might not have been a vote, it might have been a seed, it might have been something where like this helped me so much?
I have to say, just infiltrating the strong trio of Jon, Dennie, and Kylie. Like, I saw them as such a strong trio, and I didn't think I would have any shot at doing that, but I tried my hardest, and I ended up effectively almost replacing Jon in that trio.
Mhm.
Like, they've been together from the beginning, but then I met them. I got super close with Kylie. Dennie wanted a final 2 with me, and then the 3 of us kind of took the reins of the game. So that's obviously, I went from having Landon to having no one to being with them and kind of working my way back in, and kind of dictating the rest of the game with them.
Yeah, because I think also, I know I never said this, but I think you could have easily been an easy merge boo. Somebody that didn't flip, your old tribe doesn't trust you. You know, if you didn't have Kylie already in your corner, along with Dennie and other people from your original tribe, then I think you could have been the easy merge vote. And I think, like you just said, because you made that move and you got close to them, that's the reason why you weren't that easy merge boo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
that's all of our Facebook questions.
All right, Erik. So we like to end every exit interview with the same question, and that is, if you could sum up your game in 1 word, what would it be and why?
Okay. I thought about this a lot, and I taught myself the meaning of a new word because I found the word I'm going to use. I was looking up cautious and covert, things like that, but that sounded like a little weak. So I'm going to say the word prudent, because prudent implies that you're sitting back, you're being cautious, you're being wise, you're thinking about what the outcome would be for this action before you actually make the action. So I wasn't jumping into rooms, throwing names out. I wasn't really putting myself in the forefront at all. I was constantly trying to be covert and make sure that no one was even raising an eyebrow or thinking about me, but still thinking through, being like cautious and caring about all the decisions that I wanted to make for later on in the game. So prudent, that's my word.
I think it's a
Does
great
that
game.
sound smart?
I love
Yeah,
it.
and it does sound smart. A win-win. Well, again, I can't say it enough, Erik. You played a great game. You stayed under the radar, even though you should have been voted out at the merge. You play a game a lot of us are envious of. I'm envious of the game you play, and I can't wait to watch you again, hopefully.
Yeah, I feel like I say this about the entire cast because like you all were like the tops of our lists, but like you were an amazing interview, and I loved seeing you play because while like in interviews you can be a little bit, not you specific, just in general, like people can be a little bit nervous and maybe not themselves, but once you hit the game, we very much saw the strategy and the sociability that you had throughout your time here in the dunes. So from all of us on production, thank you for playing this game, and we will see you guys for the next exit interview and final exit interview of the season tomorrow. Good night, everyone.
Thanks so much. It was a blast. It was great talking with you guys.